Nothing like a little funk to get you going on a Wednesday. That's just the way we like it. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Tyler Piven of 5 Tool Productions. This is Create Smarter. Now, in case you're new to the show, our goal is to keep you up to date with what's going on in the world of events, marketing, video production, content marketing, and as we've said before, how the 3 and 4 are really kind of intertwined as a whole to this point. Now, on a side note, I also want to mention that this show is also to test out some of the new equipment processes and really to get the folks on the team some more reps in different roles with some of that new equipment specifically. Now, the reason why I stress the whole new equipment thing is because, well, really almost as always, we've added some new equipment in studio, in the control room, and really the office as a whole. So I kind of want to take you through, well, what's new here in the, I call it the station because we really are almost a news station at this point. Now, first off, perhaps the most important upgrade is our network. Now, one of the things we stress to everyone is that you're a slave to your internet, and that obviously holds true for us, a streaming media company. Now, so over the course of the last few weeks, we've upgraded our system to help not only with bandwidth, but to help with our local area network as well, or as most people note as the LAN. We've got a little bit more wiring to do, but it is going to help with a considerable amount when it comes to NDI. More of what NDI is in just a minute. We will, in fact, get to that. Now, one of our smaller but just as important upgrades was actually to our switchers as a whole. Now, so you know, we currently run on a software called vMix, which allows us to basically do what we do right now in the studio. We've upgraded to the latest version of vMix, and you might look at that and say, is that your screen? No, this is actually Josh's screen. He's the man behind the glass right now doing all of the switching. We upgraded to the latest version, so that would help with things like, you guessed it, NDI. So you're probably wondering, what the heck is NDI? I don't understand. Well, my counterpart, Phil DiMartino, he actually recently gave a great explanation of what NDI is and how we leverage it right here at 5 Tool.
What's going on, everybody? Phil from 5 Tool Productions here. I want to share a little bit of behind the scenes about how we make some things happen for our live productions to bring in large amount of guests. So you'll see here kind of the master control of all of these laptops. It's almost it's a little bit funny for people who don't know what we're using it for, because you see all these machines and people want to know, what could you possibly need 7 laptops, 8 laptops out at once for during a live broadcast? We use something called NDI, that stands for Network Device Interface. What that does is it allows us to bring in high quality real-time video with really low latency, so really low lag, over the network into our production switchers. If we have a show with 20 guests in it, it's really difficult to have some sort of solution to bring those people in as basically individual cameras. So what we'll do for a live show, if we have 20 guests, we might create a Zoom meeting that has all 20 different guests in it. And when we want to show an individual person, there'll be someone out here kind of playing the dueling pianos and pinning the appropriate person full screen on a camera when it's their time to be shown. On the production switcher side of things, we have a little window that says 5 Tool Laptop 01. That's just showing us exactly what's on this screen in full high definition, so that when someone is pinned on this screen, it basically functions the same way that an individual camera would. The real big benefit here is that it scales, so it allows you to go from, one camera here. As long as you have somebody operating this, you can change this up during the course of the show so that it can change out and be one person at the beginning, another person at the end. And on our end, we build out graphics and plan for it appropriately so that we have a rundown in front of us that says, at the start of the show, this might be Phil. Later on, it might be Tyler. Later on, it might be Marisa. And I know at what point in the show this camera is going to be synced up to that person. And of course, we communicate throughout the course of the show to confirm that we're on the right person. But it really allows us to scale up and have lots and lots and lots of guests in real time. The really cool thing, it happens all over the network. These are going into a network switch, and they're accessible to any other machine on the network. So our production switcher over there, our production switcher over there, can all access all of these computers at the same time. It gives you a lot of flexibility. It's really cool technology. We put it to use to create these really large broadcast shows, and it's a really exciting way to scale up large-scale live programs.
It's really funny. Phil and I were actually just talking off air a few minutes ago, and we were saying, when we came into this, we started out with thinking we're going to be a video production team. But now we are also network engineers. Don't know how it's happened, but it's true. But now that you've seen the space, let's shift our focus a little bit. Let's go into the news. So we'll first start off by going down south by Southwest. That's right. South by is actually wrapping up this past week, and the annual media convention was the showcase of some new tech and products for consumers to get their hands on, as it always is. But as you can imagine, this year's convention looked just a little different, to say the least. Now, as many live events have ended up this past year, South by 2021 held virtually, which challenged marketers to put their thinking caps on in order to reach kind of convention goers as they've done in the years past. And everybody's doing this exact same thing. Now, South by Southwest partnered with event studio Vroom to create a virtual reality versions of the event's usual home in Austin, Texas, for patrons to explore and enjoy in order to maintain the large-scale event feeling. Now, visitors can walk through the fantasy version of these Austin streets with the use of a VR headset and can interact with different activities and virtual ads from their favorite brands and companies. Now, small brands like local restaurants in Austin that usually depend on the tourist side of the event for their revenue, they're actually featured on VR streets, and larger companies like Amazon, HBO had their own virtual experiences for users in order to still be involved in the event while showing off their latest product, service, or shows, if you will. Now, HBO Max created a virtual event where users are surrounded by different shows and can activate clips with movements and facial expressions. Just weird and nutty, to say the least. Now, in one interview with South by's CFO, Hugh Forrest, and Director of Special Projects, Brad Spies, they commented on how this virtual integration will affect the future of South by Southwest, like it will for every single event out there. It's just going to continue to evolve over the course of time. Now, virtual events, as we've talked about on this show and with clients and friends, they're here to stay for the near future, but as the world hopefully returns to somewhat normal, and what the new normal actually is, and live events open up again, we might see a similar trend occur where these live in-person events are augmented with virtual companion live streams and things of that nature that allow for more experiences for event goers and patrons around the world. Expand the audience. That's one way to look at it. Now, moving to the world of social media, that's one way to get your message out there. But Twitter has been one of the big hitters in the world, on the WWW, World Wide Web, for 15 years now. However, it's looked relatively the same, except for the whole idea of increasing the number of characters for really a long time. Now, Twitter's been thinking about making some pretty big changes in the way that users interact with the app, as well as how it plans to compete with its big tech rivals. Now, we've seen in the past year that Twitter rolled out their own take on the stories feature, which we know from Instagram, Facebook, and similar to Snapchat as well, with their new Fleets feature, which allows users to post a picture or share a post up to 24 hours before it disappears into thin air, even though we know if you post on the internet, it's here forever at some way or another form. Now, they also introduced voice tweets where instead of a character limit, users can say as much as they'd like in a 2-minute voice recording that can be tweeted out to their followers. You don't want to record me. I say a lot of ridiculous things. Now, these new features definitely change the look of user feeds and has given Twitter users more creative ways to get their message out to one another. And it looks like the brand really isn't stopping there. Now, Twitter recently previewed some new plans and features to expand their brand and the content that users of the app are able to create. This included their recently purchased newsletter company, Review, which allow a move into the world of long-form publications that are not only the limit to only 140 characters. Now, Twitter also introduced a set of new content tools for use that to actually make money through the app. At the end of the day, that's what they're in the business of, trying to do with some of their influencer-type users. Now, Twitter plans to keep the most creative and influential users on the platform and engage with their followers by keeping users on the app instead of sending them somewhere else as a result of the brand deal or advertisement as a whole. Now, users will be able to pay for a super follow, that's what it's called, to get early access or even exclusive content from larger users they follow, to encourage those users to publish content only on Twitter and get paid for it by their followers. trying to allow people to monetize as well. Now, alongside this, Twitter has hinted at adding a tipping feature to large pages where users are able to send monetary thank you money for users' content. Now, it's clear that Twitter is trying to keep up with rival companies such as Instagram, who have their own type of influencer and content creator hub who's, central to that app. Now, these users can bring in a large audience that'll help boost both the creator's content and the company's brand as a whole, which Twitter is, now attempting to capitalize on. Might be a little late, but we'll see. You never know how it ends up working out when all is said and done. Now, we really love to see brands evolving and introducing new technologies into platforms, especially the ones that have been around for this many years. But I guess only time will tell if they'll be able to keep up with some of the other new players like Clubhouse and things of that nature. Meanwhile, I want to move on to talk about other new things, the latest marketing trends that brands have been using to stay in the headlines. Now, if you haven't heard of the newest crypto craze hitting the nation, really the world at this point, let us introduce you to the world of NFTs. You may have heard it on the news, you might not, but NFTs are actually known as non-fungible tokens, but you'll hear them being told as NFTs. Now, they're digital items that can be bought, sold, traded for real money. You say tokens, are we going to Chuck E. Cheese and getting tokens? No. The idea is that you actually purchase a token, you're awarded a digital certificate stating that you are the sole owner of that specific token and there are no other copies in the world. Think of owning the original version of the Mona Lisa with an autograph from Da Vinci himself. Well, in the tech world, this is known as blockchain and is how, cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin is really traded. NFTs can be images, GIFs, digital art, even video snippets, all ranging from one kind of digital art piece to pictures of cats, tacos, you name it, a little bit of everything. It's kind of ridiculous at this point, honestly. But trade them for a big chunk of dough, to be honest with you. Most NFTs are actually limited edition and are distributed in select drops that sell out in really just a few minutes. They're selling for, like I said, a big profit. Take, for example, the biggest sports NFT marketplace. NBA has something called Top Shot. Now, this is official licensed product of the NBA. Sees short videos, dunks, three-pointers, blocks, and other kind of cool plays from your favorite athletes. They're selling for, you see that right there? $200,000, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, the highest selling NFT from that site specifically was a LeBron James dunk clip. Yes, the same clip that you see on YouTube probably 500 times. It was sold for $200,000. Big chunk of dough. Now, NFTs are also spread into the company branding campaigns across social media, which this part is really interesting. And I don't know if they're trying to actually make money off of it or if they're just doing it from a marketing ploy. But it's working because here we are talking about it. Now, in the beginning of March, just a few weeks ago, fast food chain Taco Bell hopped on the NFT bandwagon and released 25 tokens of their own, which sold out in less than a half an hour. Taco Bell stated that all profits from these tokens, 20 pictures, 5 gifts, were all, taco themed, of course. We're going towards the Live Más scholarship through the Taco Bell Foundation and came away with a $500 digital gift card to the restaurant for each of the original owner of the NFT. Just this week, 2 more food chains kind of dropped their own NFTs. Pringles. I mean, this is just ridiculous at this point. Pringles created, selling tokens, and the Pizza Hut actually NFT started selling for 8 G's. Now, whether or not this might be just another kind of flash in the pan or a viable investment option for traders is obviously yet to be seen. I mean, it just sounds crazy that you're dropping money on stuff that's just digital, and who knows if there's an actual expiration date. But only time's really going to tell what's next for NFTs, and who's next to drop will make the headlines in a sense. But all we can hope for is that more brands follow in Taco Bell's footsteps and, pay it forward with their crazy profits. And who doesn't want kind of some pretty cool taco pictures, I guess, in digital form? It's just weird, to say the least, to be completely honest with you. There's really no other way to describe it. But anyways, let's move on. That's the kind of a look at your news right now. But as I mentioned last show, it's been kind of an interesting year, to say the least. And not just for us. I mean, everybody knows that. It's been interesting for everyone right now. And the fact that it's been over a year to this point is just wild to think about. But one of the things that's really been interesting for the folks that are kind of graduating or just graduated, really either graduating right now or graduated just a year ago. So we thought right now we take a couple of minutes and talk about what this last year was like through the eyes of people that just graduated and, went through the job market and started trying to understand what's out there for starting your career. So with that in mind, we want to bring on two of our newest employees. We brought in Marisa Yaleski and Connor Clogarty to talk a little bit more about their experience from graduating a year ago right up to joining us here at 5 Tool. So guys, welcome in. How are you both doing today?
Tyler, just sitting here enjoying the show.
Hanging out in the yellow. How about you, Connor? How are you doing?
I'm coming in remotely. It's really interesting. I'm doing fine and, hanging out.
Awesome. I dig it. No, it's interesting. It is kind of cool for us on this side of things because you guys get to see what it's like for one of our guests to come on or for people that are recording, which we, do recordings all the time for. And you're seeing kind of the other side of things, which is always interesting to say the least. But kind of let's start off. I want to get to it. Kind of give us your backgrounds. Connor, I'll start with you. When did you graduate? What's the last year kind of been like? I know that's a loaded question, but first give me an idea kind of what the last year was really like since you graduated.
Well, in one word, I would say it was hectic. And I think a lot of people could agree with that. I graduated in May of 2020 from Curry College, and it was just kind of a crazy world to be dumped into. There's no class you can take that's going to prepare you for real life, but at the same time, a pandemic that no one's ever been through before. So it was really kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps and just try your best. Talk to everyone everyone you ever met, and just see what latches on, and maybe you'll get lucky like we did.
Awesome. I dig it. Now, and prior to joining us at 5 Tool, you actually also had another job, but you were working more on the radio side of things, kind of traditional media, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So I worked at a local radio station in my hometown, and it was kind of, like I said, like luck of the Irish, just the right time, be in the right place. I made a network connection during college with this guy at the radio station. I met him later at college, and then once I graduated, I sent him an email, said, hey, listen, you got any positions, anything I can do? And like I said, right time, right place. He had a board-op position open, and I worked there for about 8 months. It was really cool to see behind the scenes of a real life radio station.
Awesome. I dig it. Marisa, I want to bring you in as well. Now, Marisa, you are a graduate of, Syracuse University, which we know they're doing decent in the tournament. So I just have to throw that out right now because I know you've been following it religiously, which is cool. But so you graduated also in May 2020 from Syracuse. Tell me, for you, what was kind of like the last year like since you graduated?
Yeah. First of all, shout out to our men's basketball team, Sweet 16. Love that. So I'm definitely following them. But I graduated, same as Connor, May 2020, from Syracuse University. I got sent home for spring break, as did everybody else, thinking, oh, woohoo, like an extra week of spring break. And then I ended up being home for good. And I left all my stuff in New York. And so I eventually had to go back and get it. But just sitting around at home, having a virtual graduation, it was all very odd and nobody really knew how to deal with it. And that's kind of how everybody dealt with the pandemic. But then you start thinking about, okay, well, now I have to enter into the actual job world and trying to figure out how to navigate life that way. So I had some trouble finding a job because not many people were hiring. People were getting laid off from places. So it was a lot of just searching and sending out applications and seeing what was happening. But I went back to my retail job that I had been working since I was 16 because I needed something to do with my time and some way to make money before I got here. So it was just a lot of sitting around waiting, which is what everybody did. But graduating in a pandemic was for sure interesting because I didn't really know, navigating after graduation is difficult enough. And then having to do that when nobody really knows what's going on adds an extra level of confusion to that whole process.
So with that in mind, and Connor, feel free to jump in after Marisa. You mentioned right there, it's kind of sitting around. You probably take days. It's almost like you're going to work, sitting in front of the computer, sending out resumes, I'm sure, Marisa, at that standpoint. There's nothing worse than hearing nothing back. If you hear the no, but if you're just kind of waiting, it is tough, and that's a challenge. With that in mind, how I'm sure you sent out hundreds of resumes, as so many people do, myself included. I remember it like it was yesterday. I obviously didn't graduate in a pandemic, and I won't even say when I graduated. It was just way too long ago. But with that in mind, how do you keep your spirits up? How do you keep saying like, I still want to do this and stay eager in a sense?
I don't know, it's tough. I struggled with that one for a long time. I sent out, like you said, a lot of resumes, wrote a lot of cover letters, got really good at that because I had to write a million of them. But like you said, not many places will respond back and even say no. They just kind of leave you in limbo. So it's just a matter of trying to keep sending them out and hit that sweet spot of finding the right one. But there are definitely days that it was hard to even want to fill out another application or to write another cover letter because I didn't see anything coming from it for so long. I kept a running list on my notes section of my phone of all the jobs that I had applied for. And then I ended up putting X's next to the ones I didn't get, but it wasn't even that many of them because not a lot of places responded back to me. But once that list was getting longer and longer, I was starting to get pretty discouraged. But, when you talk to people around you, everybody tries to tell you, everybody's going through this. You're not the only one that is struggling to find a job or even struggling to just live normal life at this point. But it was a lot of back and forth days trying to keep my spirits high and send out resumes until I found the right job.
Connor, what about you? Kind of a similar mindset, or I know obviously you were working somewhat in a field that you wanted to do, but talk about your mindset.
Yeah, of course. I can agree with a lot of what Marisa said, and a lot of the same. Oh, everyone's going through it, and they'll open up back up. But I kind of looked at it as a challenge that no one had faced before, so to see what I could do for it. I kind of just try to keep staying motivated, try to go through day to day. Like she said, some days were real hard and be like, no one's replying. You get the auto, reply email that was just, oh, because of COVID, we're not hiring. And that was the only thing you heard from it, or if you heard anything at all. But what I kept telling myself is that, nobody's waking up in the morning saying, oh, today I got to find Connor a job. So I kind of just use that to say, no one's going to get you this job except for you. So you just kept applying, kept looking. I was looking across the country. I was looking stuff in New York and, even California because I knew everyone was going remote. So I said, why not? Just shoot your shot and see what you get. I was applying for social media management jobs, a lot of things that I could just do from home. And luckily, like I said, I reached out to everyone I ever met through college, and one of them replied and said, yeah, come on down. We'll take an interview. And I got the job at the radio station, and, it was great from then.
Awesome. I dig it. So it is interesting because the same, it's interesting on our side to hear it as, I'm a small business owner, right? At the end of the day. So hearing what you guys are saying, and it makes me reevaluate and think about how we talk to people. And when I say talk to people, just even respond. You sent your resume and say, no, thank you, as opposed to leaving someone in limbo goes a long way. I think it's just something little that just helps out. The other part that I think is actually kind of cool with the two of you specifically is you both came to us in slightly different ways. So Marisa, saw the job, applied, we got it. We had a kind of a conversation, kind of standard practice, if you will. Connor, on your side of things, it was a little bit different because I think we had opened up a job, several months beforehand that we were like, okay, we need to try to hire for this position. We basically got crazy and slammed, and we had initially started talking to you because you mentioned earlier that you graduated from Curry College, as did I, and we had the same television professor. Shout out to Jerry Gibbs because he's awesome, to say the least. But one of those things that he actually said, it's like, oh, Connor's this great guy, you have to talk to him. Well, it didn't end up coming to fruition in September, but several months later, when we posted the job again, you actually reached out again. You said, hey, Tyler, I saw this. And that's how kind of the conversation started, right? I mean, what made you think like, I'm going to reach back out to this person? Because that to me was interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of that just go-getter attitude that I was saying. It was very lucky. Again, it might have been last September we were put in contact by the professor. And then, like you said, it kind of just fizzled out. And I was left very confused. I was like, was that something I said? I don't know what was going on. Obviously, it wasn't. But and then I was just, on Indeed and on Glassdoor and on LinkedIn, all these job sites, just scrolling for days and days and days. and I saw the job posting pop up again. And I said, this has got to be some kind of sign. I don't really believe in all that destiny stuff, but hey, there's the same job posting. So I said, why not? Let me just see what the worst you could say is no, right? That's the worst thing. And luckily you said yes. And here I am.
Awesome.
So it all worked out in the end, which was great time.
I dig it. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, we had a question come from the audience, and Marisa, I'll start with you. Comes in from Kyle, Kyle's, a friend of the show, a friend of myself and Phil. He's actually going to be on one of the future episodes of Create Smarter. We just recorded with him yesterday. Had a great conversation about content marketing and sales enablement, especially in kind of a niche market. And so Kyle's going to be on the next episode, but he did have a question for you guys, and I'll start with you, Marisa. He talks about, internships. How many internships did you have in college, if any? And did you feel like it kind of helped you, set you up at all? I know obviously the last year was interesting, but still, do you think it helped, the internship itself?
Yeah, I think definitely, even if it didn't line me up for a job right after college, it taught me what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. So I had 2 internships. I had a summer internship at NBC 10 Boston as a production intern going into my senior year, because at that time I really wanted to do broadcast. So I worked on that side of things and spent the summer doing that. And then when I was at school, my senior year, I had an internship with Syracuse University Athletics. I was a creative services video intern, and that's when I really fell in love with the video production side of things and content creation for social media. And that's when I realized what I wanted to do. So the internships definitely helped me decide that. I was actually supposed to, I don't want to say supposed to, but I was thinking about going back to NBC after graduation, and that was something that was discussed, but with the pandemic, everything pretty much shut down, and that ended up not being a possibility for me anymore. So I had to, like Connor was saying, just search through Indeed, search through whatever I could and try to find something. But the internships definitely helped kind of sort out mentally what I wanted to do in the future.
And that was one of those things for us when we were looking at your resume specifically, for anybody that's watching or thoughts out there. You had both the traditional news kind of background and more storytelling, sports oriented. And our company specifically, we were like, oh, well, we do that. We have kind of more broadcast, like what you're seeing right now, and we have to go on site and we do kind of standard kind of storytelling. So well, for us, we saw yours and we're like, oh, well, she makes sense. Plus, you are, a pretty cool cat too, so that helps out. Yeah, and speaking of cool cats, Connor, I know that's something that I've heard you say before. What about you, internships? Did you have any? Did you feel like it helped kind of set you up?
Yeah, definitely. Being the cool cat that I am, I did one internship I did in Westwood Media Center. So it really got my kind of feet wet in the video production environment. Through college, I mostly did news reporting, kind of that kind of storytelling and video package creation. So the Westwood internship was my first kind of creative, step into storytelling, where I was going to different shoots on site, making different videos about artists. And I did an after-school program with them, which was kind of cool to teach younger kids about video production. So it was kind of tackling what I already knew, but from different angles that I hadn't really thought about before, or I didn't get to experience in college, like the on-site shoots, which, now at 5Tool, we do all the time. So that definitely prepared me for what was in the future, and I was really happy I did it. I would say anybody who has the opportunity to do an internship, definitely don't turn it down, and definitely take full advantage of that one.
Yeah, and very similar. When we first talked, I remember the conversation like it was yesterday. I was actually sitting right here, and I just happened to have my headphones on talking with you, and you were saying the exact same thing about kind of standard traditional broadcast and kind of the creative mindset and wanting to be an editor and future filmmaker someday. That would be kind of your goal. That would be cool. Which hopefully we get that for you someday, man, which is
fingers crossed.
Well, how it comes to fruition sometimes. So with that in mind, guys, and kind of closing into wrapping it up, if I give you each 30 seconds, Connor, I'll start with you. What is your advice, having gone through it yourself over the last year? What advice do you have for other folks out there?
Like I said, one of the best quotes I've ever heard is, nobody's going to wake up and get you a job. I was lucky enough to have a family that has some connections, and that it was behind me the whole time saying, hey, what are you doing? You're on the couch. Go look for a job. You got nothing going on today. Go look for a job. because at the end of the day, no one's going to do it for you. And if you don't do it, it'll never get done. So my advice is to keep looking, try not to get discouraged. Although some days are tough, you just got to keep, just recycle, maybe sleep on it, try the next day, reach out to something else, and maybe go out of your where you think you want to go towards, look at stuff that's around that industry, around that career, and kind of see what piques your interest, and you'll eventually find something.
I love it. Marisa, what about you?
Well, Connor pretty much said it very eloquently, and I would probably put it the same way. But my advice would definitely be just to keep trying. Obviously, like people were telling me, not the only one trying to find a job. And if Connor and I can do it in a pandemic, along with everybody else that graduated this year, hopefully we can all get through it together. And going forward, people are going to now understand how to better operate in circumstances like this. So it's just about trying to stay encouraged and sending out resumes and not knocking anything before you try it. Like Connor was saying, kind of go beyond what you were initially looking for. Initially, I was looking for sports jobs. And then I ended up coming here and I love it here. So just kind of expanding your mindset and being open-minded to other things is going to help you in your job search and navigating going forward.
And we love you guys. That's the most important part of all of this. Well, Connor, Marisa, guys, thank you so much. I'll probably see you in about 5 minutes when we wrap up the show.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Connor.
Very cool, guys.
Hey,
all right,
thanks, Tyler.
That'll just about do it for the show, but we do want to continue this conversation here as well. Now, you heard Connor and Marisa both talk about kind of standard broadcasting as well as really what's taking place with storytelling as well. If you've watched the last show, our show is really all about what's happened over the last year from our company's standpoint as well. And a lot of things have happened in terms of us going towards more virtual events. We've said pivot, don't replicate probably 100 times. And with that in mind, we said, all right, well, we're doing a lot of virtual events. We're still doing some in-person shooting. Why don't we put together kind of a virtual events demo reel to see exactly what we've been doing over the course of the last year. So we figured now would be as good a time to show you exactly that. Take a peek. I'm just about ready to run through a wall after seeing that, probably for about the 5,000th time, but I don't get sick of it. I enjoy watching it that much. So it kind of captures in about a minute 30 what exactly we do or have been doing over the course of the last year at 5tool. And the person that put that together actually joined us, call it this point, a year and 4 months ago. Jayson Ruboy was the editor of that, and he kind of poured through a lot of footage. I mean, if you think about it, events themselves are typically an hour plus long. There's a lot of outtakes. There's a lot of content that kind of goes into them. And Jayson did an insane job, insanely incredible job. That's how I'll summarize it, of kind of piecing it all together. So I wanted to bring Jayson in and talk to him about kind of the process of pulling things in. And Jayson, I know you're literally wrapped up inside an edit bay, but thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. As always, cranking away on edits, but take me through kind of your process of piecing that together. What was it like once we said, hey, we've got this idea, can you put this together?
So when you guys first brought it up to me, I was very excited. I wanted to jump into it immediately. We've done a lot of live events, so one of the one of the problems I kind of ran into was we worked with a whole bunch of clients, but with some of the clients we've done multiple videos with. So I'm like, how do I create this so it's not just focusing on one client mainly? But then on top of that, we had all of the feature stories and the in-person shootings that we did before COVID. And I was even going through B-roll before I started here over a year ago. So altogether, it was an incredible but also an agonizing time to go through because not many people know, but Tyler, you know, around I think edit 7 or 8, I realized I couldn't cut this video onto the beat of the songs that I was using, and it was killing me to the point where I decided to trash the whole entire video. And the only thing I kept was maybe about half the footage I used, but everything else changed along with the music. And from there, it was just great. And I mean, just how you felt while watching it. Like every time I watch it, I'm just ready to run through a wall.
It's like our entrance music, right? Like that's kind of how I feel right now. Like, now being chosen to be announced as a team, 5 Tool Productions, and we all run out, right? It's the, 2000 Patriots, man. That's the way it works. But no, so you mentioned that. Talk about that. Was that a tough thing to do, to think about, like, shoot, I'm scrapping this and I'm kind of starting over with a new song? Like, what was your mindset at that moment in time? Because I've been there and it stinks. It's hard, like, to say, like, I've done so much work on this, I can't give up on this song. I've got to make it work. But then at a certain point you say, ugh, I just kind of have to. Take me through, what was it that when you said, all right, I'm scrapping this? What was there one thing in particular you said, screw this, I got to start over?
So what kind of led to it was I had a meeting with you to talk about it in 5 minutes, and I just finished up the previous version. I was going through it, and the purpose of the meeting was to basically say, like, all right, this is practically done. We just need to go through the wording, create one graphic, and it's ready to go. But I just kept going through it, and I'm like, every time I watch this, it just seems worse and worse and worse to me. And I just realized, I'm like, I gotta trash this whole thing. It wasn't a proud moment, but I don't regret it one bit, and I'm much happier with it now.
It's so funny you say that, because I remember it. Like, I really do. I was in my office and you walked in and you said, I actually hate this. I really don't like it. And I remember our conversation was like, well, if you don't like it, someone else watching isn't going to like it either. So, do something that you like, and talk about that a little bit, because not just with this, but just in edits as a whole, how important is it to really look at things objectively and say, not only do I like it, but is our audience or our client's audience going to like it? Just talk about the importance of that, because I think that sometimes gets lost and say, well, we need to include all this. Yeah, but do you actually like it? Does it really sound good for you? And is your audience going to care? Talk to that a little bit.
Oh, it's extremely important to like it. I'm probably the hardest critic on myself with everything that I edit, and I watch through it countless times before I send it in. And for me, when I'm watching it, if I even zone out or just kind of get bored at one part of the video, I'm just like, if I'm doing this myself, the audience is going to do it too. So my goal for editing every single video is to make it where when I'm watching it, I'm engaged the whole entire time. I'm enjoying it. And that's when I know that the audience will be too. If I don't, then I know the audience isn't, and there's something wrong where I got to fix it. Either it's taking out a sound bite, putting in a completely new one that sounds better, or many other things to do, like even small little things like changing the music, changing a B-roll footage. Any little thing to get the audience more engaged is very important.
I love it. And I think people are excited about it and enjoyed it to this point from all the feedback we've heard, which is great. So kudos to you, my man, as always. So,
thank you.
Tell me before I let you go, now that's just one kind of little clip. We've got more coming too, right?
Yes, we have 2 more demo reels in the work. I haven't been able to touch them in about a month, but as work is lightening up, as we're getting over that very busy hill, I'm hoping to have those done in the upcoming weeks. And we have one that is a feature story and a demo reel. Sorry, let me repeat that. It's a feature story and virtual events demo reel. And then we also have another one that's just a feature story demo reel.
Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to both of them coming out.
It should be pretty cool. I'm stoked. I'm pumped to have it. Jayson, good talking to you as always. We're not lightening up. You're gonna be busy. I promise you that. So get back to editing, right?
I'll go back to my chair.
I dig it. Jayson, thanks so much, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So that's Jayson Ruboy. Did just a tremendous job, honestly, on piecing together the virtual events demo. Super happy with the way it's coming out. And as he mentioned, we are going to have several other videos kind of being released over the course of time shortly as well. That are pretty cool, to say the least. So one thing we want to do, we want to move on and kind of wrap the show up. We've been going for about 45 minutes, give or take, which is perfect timing, to say the least. But we wanted to leave you today with kind of an idea of what goes into this show in particular. You've seen probably recently on our social feeds that we've really been putting out a lot of behind the scenes content, what goes into shoots, what goes into virtual events. So we figured, why not put together a video of what goes into putting this show out? So if you watched the last episode, Marisa actually was in the background kind of lurking, if you will, which what happens with a lot of the behind the scenes footage, but was walking around, had her content up, and had the camera up, and capturing really a behind the scenes look at how everything came together. So with that in mind, that is what we will leave you with today. So here's behind the scenes to essentially play us out. We'll see you guys next time. So we're getting ready for one of our live shows. When we stream, we typically use two different encoders. One is a primary, one is a backup. The reason we always have backups is in case something goes wrong. Today, we're only going to the Terra deck, and that is going to Facebook. So we're walking through the process. Connor actually has us all set up in terms of what we have to do for live streaming itself, and we'll be good to go in about 20 minutes or so. Live stream is coming up.
We're at 8 minutes.
Hi Josh, how are we feeling about our live stream today?
Hey Marisa, feeling pretty good. As you can see, we're just a little over 7 minutes out from the start of the show, so everyone's kind of in their respective battle stations. I'm certainly in mine, so if I do everything right, it should be pretty simple, but it's just about managing those nerves and staying cool under pressure and just doing what you do during any other live stream here at 5tool.
You're gonna do great, good luck!
Thanks! See you on the flip side!
Yeah, I'm excited. First live stream is going to be great. Going to go very well. Me, I'm just viewing kind of behind the scenes, making sure everything's running smooth. I have audio, I have video, and I can also see who's joining and kind of how the stream is running.
That show went well. A lot of great positive comments. I'm already actually getting text messages, which was good. I think Phil and I probably could have talked less, a lot longer, and a lot less. So, maybe we'll have to do a longer form podcast. We're just going to get our podcast back up and running. So.
It's great just to see the team come together and everybody fill their roles, do a great job with office tours and interviews and putting together a great show from a Switcher standpoint. So just happy to see it all come together.
Can't wait for the next one.